Hello everyone, and welcome to the next walkthrough video for DIAMOND Jazz Orchestra. In this one we'll take a look at the solo brass patches. These patches can be used as solo lead lines, counterpoint accompaniment, or combined to create your own ensembles. And don't just think that these instruments are limited to jazz music. The relatively dry recording space means that you can utilize these instruments within all kinds of music, from funk to drum and bass. The instruments included here are as follows: lead trumpet along with two other alternative trumpets, unmuted and with a variety of different mutes, cup, Harmon, plunger, and straight. Two trombones, again with various mutes. Contrabass trombone, bass trombone with no mute, and cup and straight mutes. Tuba, unmuted and straight mute. And lastly, a flugelhorn. Again, a reminder that wherever possible we've kept consistency between the various patches, both within the solo brass patches themselves and more widely throughout the DIAMOND Jazz Orchestra library. This makes it easy to swap out different instruments using the same MIDI. You should also find that timing aspects like shorts and crescendo lengths are as similar as possible between instruments. This should make auditioning and combining patches a simple process. So let's take a listen. First up, the longs, legato and flutter patches. When you load up one of these patches, you'll immediately see the playable range marked in blue, as well as key switches at the bottom. The key switches change the performance from non-vibrato, slow vibrato, fast vibrato, and flutter tongue. Let's take a listen to some of the regular solo patches along with some different types of mutes. And a special mention for a couple of unique bonus patches in the Trombone One collection, Hammond wah longs and shorts, a really juicy tone for that cotton club sound. Note that some instruments that play in the lower range have the positions of playable and articulation keys flipped, like the bass and contrabass trombones. The dynamic range varies between the instruments, from 2 to 4 layers. Use the mod wheel to move between them. Within the non-vibrato key switch, you have two ways of performing. accented sustain, triggered with velocity above 96, anything below that will trigger a regular soft sustain. This kind of performance is the same across many patches in Diamond Jazz Orchestra, but particularly noticeable within these solo brass patches. Take a listen. The velocity dynamic influencer I've covered in some of the other walkthrough videos. Although you'd normally use your mod wheel to dictate dynamics, you can use this slider to have key velocity influence the volume of individual notes, useful for making some notes in a chord more pronounced than others. The legato script can now be triggered in polyphonic or monophonic mode and can handle fast and slow melodies without a problem. You can, of course, turn it on or off entirely. Finally, a few more options. You can turn the release samples off. Reverb adjustments are just here. Here at the top right corner you can see the help icon to get more information about the interface controls. There's also an advanced menu accessible here. Sustained notes by default are linked to the sustain pedal of your MIDI keyboard. You can map it to another controller if you want to. Niente brings down the volume to complete silence and rearranges the instrument's dynamic controls. Use this to expand the dynamic range. You can move around the key switches up to a certain point and also add additional controllers for dynamics and expression. Here at the bottom you have the global attack and global release controls. Shorts and effects. When you load up a patch from the shorts and effects, you will see that again you have key switches at the bottom, triggering different articulations. The blue key range is the playable range of the instrument. It's worth repeating again that we try to keep a very consistent articulation set between all instruments wherever possible. So you've got marcato, staccato, staccatissimo, short and long rises, short and long falls, short and long deuts. There are also shakes, which are separate patches for most of the solo instruments, essential for big band writing and available in both big and small variations. Accent, sustain and crescendo. With these patches, the idea is that you press a note, you get a nice forte piano attack. Then a loopable sustain. The crescendo is triggered when you release the key from the keyboard. As I mentioned in previous videos for the ensembles and the winds as axis, we try to get the releases to be exactly the same across different instruments. So if you play a chord with simultaneous instruments and then release at the same time, you should get a nicely balanced performance. The key switch at the bottom chooses whether there should be an accent ending note or not. And finally, the Ghost Staccatissimo patches. These instruments have two sets of samples, normal staccatissimo, available at higher velocities, and staccatissimo notes extracted from live played performances, available at lower velocities. Use a combination of these two different sample sets with a more pronounced attack and then live played staccatissimo to add realism to fast repetitions. The mod wheel controls the overall dynamics. Lastly, let's take a quick look at the microphone options. Close and room for all solo brass instruments. Apart from mixing and panning these, you have the option to perch, solo, and mute. The close mic gives a particularly intimate sound, whereas the room mic places the instruments in a more open environment. Here at the bottom, you can see the stereo spread function if you want to make the sound from a mic position wider. You can also choose different outputs, just here. Thanks for watching this walkthrough video for Diamond Jazz Orchestra, and do catch up on our many other videos that cover all instruments and features of the library. Cheers, until the next time.